Hey Bills Mafia, what's up? How you doing? How you feeling out there? Not good still. It's Monday morning. Um, we're about 2 days removed from the debacle in Denver, and it still hurts a little bit. I gotta tell you, we'll start off with the catch no catch. In my opinion, it was a catch, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been watching football for 46 years. Both guys that had their hands on that ball when Cooks went to the ground. He had both feet down, knees on the ground, behind on the ground. Anytime I've ever seen that thing officiated, it's always the tie goes to the receiver. Why is it that all of a sudden he didn't survive the ground? I don't understand it. Now, that being said, we'll leave it at that because, you know, the Rams were the beneficiary of the exact same call, except it was called for the receiver last night. But that being said, other than that play, there were count them, four turnovers. 3 by Josh Allen, 1 uh, by uh, by Cook. You can't win like that in the playoffs. You just can't. You're up 10-3, you're driving the ball for another score, at least 13-3, possibly 17-3 the way that drive was going. Cook fumbles. It's a hard hit. Okay. But Cook's been having that issue. So we may have a bit of a problem because just extended the dude and he's a fumbling machine all of a sudden again. Then you have 1st and 10 at the Denver 14. You cannot get a receiver open. You can't get a receiver open. That's more points off the board. You can't at times find your tight end, your star tight end, the guy you drafted in the first round and said, this is going to be the guy. He's like a receiver, blah, 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 blah. For some reason, disappears out of the offense. You can't protect the quarterback this year for whatever reason. Now let's talk about the defense. You actually stopped the run yesterday, but you couldn't stop the pass. You couldn't figure out that Bo Nix can run the ball. So you didn't stop him from running the ball. They spent so much time after the draft or before the draft talking about they needed defense. They needed to stop the other team's quarterback. They needed to get the quarterback on the ground. So they spend all these draft picks on defensive players. They still can't get the quarterback on the ground. And you can't stop the run. This game was lost and we're going to go back to the fact that you couldn't beat Miami in Miami. Terrible team, had a terrible season. You couldn't beat them. You couldn't beat Atlanta on the road. What makes you think you were going to go on the road for 3 games? I had my doubts. I admit I predicted Bills wins in the first game and in the second game. I was right the first time, wrong the second time. But this was not the year. The Bills were the odds were not in the Bills' favor to get to the Super Bowl this year. A team that couldn't win on the road consistently and perform well on the road consistently was not going to be favored to win 3 straight on the road in the playoffs against the NFL's best or the AFC's best. Where do I place the blame? There's plenty to go around. Josh Allen was sacked more than he has been at any point in his career. I do blame Josh Allen for this loss because I love Josh Allen, great quarterback, great human being, but man, you were right in your post-game press conference. You did let your team down. That fumble at the end of the first half was ridiculous. There was no reason for it. There were times when you weren't pulling the trigger on receivers that, are ordinarily, considered open. Yeah, tight window, but you're supposed to be that man. Throw it in the tight window. Either it's going to be caught or not. But you do your part. Brandon Beane on the roster construction. He goes on WGR at the beginning of the season after the draft, or before the season, after the draft, and yells at Jeremy and Joe about the fact that they were criticizing him for not drafting a receiver early. Guess what? It came back to bite him in the behind. You don't have the horses to compete with these defenses like Houston and New England. What are you going to do at the end? What are you going to do? Because I don't expect him to be fired. Because here's where more blame lies. Ownership. McDermott and Beane are too comfortable in their positions. They should be gone. We thank them for getting us where we are out of that playoff drought. But good grief. At a certain point, you're not great anymore. You're only capable of getting your team but so far. There are guys that know how to construct rosters around the salary cap. Look at Philadelphia. I look at them all the time. They've got players everywhere. And I mean players. I don't mean guys like Greg Rousseau, who doesn't show up. When was the last time the Bills' defensive lineman, a defensive end, had a sack in a playoff game? I'll tell you, because I just found out this morning, 2000. The last time a Bills defensive end had a sack in a playoff game, which means those guys aren't showing up. But yet you extend Greg Rousseau. Why? Matt Milano's starting to show his age, and his injury history is making his contract not worth it. It's just the sad state of affairs for a team that consistently makes the playoffs. You can't consistently get through. At some point you have to break through, and if you can't break through, then it's over. You should be Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay. You might be able to do it somewhere else, but it's over here. After a while, Baltimore parted with Harbaugh. What does that tell you? That's an owner that looks around and goes, I love you, but this isn't working for us anymore. And for me, it's not working anymore. Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, I think this is the 3rd year in a row I've said this at the end of a season. It's time to go. Me, I'll always be here. I'm Bills Mafia for life. But you can be Bills Mafia. You can love your team to death, but still expect the best. And that's what Bills Mafia expects. That's what Bills Mafia deserves. As always, go Bills.